Jatayla Johnson, the sophomore. And can't ask for a better start there, Mark. A turnover along with the field goal on the very first possession. And Wekiva off to that 4-0 lead, a minute in. Winter Springs yet to take an offensive shot. So they'll try to get that ball up the court now. Coach Saunders did not like what he sees, and I don't think you need to be a basketball guru just to feel that timeout was needed there. It's certainly hostile environment from the Winter Springs perspective. Not hostile in terms of anybody being mean or nasty or violence, but just a very raucous and boisterous crowd here on senior night. No dice, scramble underneath, and Winter Springs comes out with it. A nice job there on the floor with Yalamar, but still unable to convert that into points. So Winter Springs do get their first 2 field goal attempts of the game. But Wekiva still with the 4-0 lead. Also a very efficient, of course, 2 field goals, a very, very small sample, but nonetheless 2 of 2. As efficient as possible in that small sample. As Winter Springs goes back to work, DeLeo at the top of the key. Ball almost stolen. That was Jasmine Pooler getting her hand in there, trying to do the sleight of hand, but couldn't quite keep it in bound. Nonetheless, that does slow down the Winter Springs' ability to get into a flow, in a rhythm. Back to work they go. That's DeLeo. Drives the lane. Slings the ball up there to draw the foul, the shooting foul. She got slapped en route to the field goal attempt.
Foul is called against Mustangs, number 15, Tiana Washington, her first, team's first. That will send the Bears to the free throw line. This will be Anaya DeLeo shooting 2.
Should also be noted the colors are backwards tonight, so don't let that throw you off. That is by design. Tonight is a blackout night. That's the theme of the night for senior night. And so, again, don't be alarmed by that. Wekiva is the home team, but is wearing their dark jerseys. And Winter Springs is the home team, the visiting team wearing the white jerseys.
DeLeo averaging 12.1 points and 1.9 rebounds per game. She gets Winter Springs on the board, 4-1. And now the steal, a page out of Wekiva's book. And that was Mason, and unfortunately looked like she was trying to figure out what to do once she got in the paint trying to figure out what to do in the paint before she actually got into the paint. And so a couple of turnovers there, one for each team, as you like to say, Mark. One good turnover deserves another. 2:15 into this game. Wekiva still the 4-1 lead with possession. Slamming through that is Pooler making the deposit.
Jasmine Pooler.
6-1 now for Wekiva. Again, as good a start as you can ask for a team that needs to win the remaining games. So Pooler brings the ball up. 6-1 lead again for Wekiva. Chance to get it up to 3 possessions. Actually, 7 points, maybe even 8. And I believe we're going to do that. The opportunity will come at the free throw line. No, actually, it's a non-shooting foul.
Foul is called against Bears, number 5, Summer Mason, her first, team second.
Down low.
Stripped.
Yeah, Blackwood unable to handle that ball, and Winter Springs, after giving up a couple turnovers on their first 2 possessions, or 2 of their first 3, have now put the intensity on that side to their advantage. And they force a couple consecutive turnovers, and just as soon as I said that, Wekiva steps up on the defensive end and unable to get any kind of good look there. That was just kind of a throw it up and hope you get a foul decision. So Wekiva with that 6-1 lead, 3 games into this regular season home finale. Both these teams needing wins to position themselves for the playoffs. Outlet to Washington, who can't get the deposit. Second opportunity from Alexis Hill. Not sure when she checked in. And so Winter Spring dodges the proverbial bullet there. Could be a bigger lead, still 6-1. Way off, can't catch iron. And possession will remain with Winter Springs. So about 150 fans making the trip over to Wekiva High School, Mustang Arena, the site. On the southeast side of Apopka, next to the 429. So right now, the difference is those first couple of possessions. Wekiva's defense showed up with their A game, forcing turnovers, getting a couple of easy buckets, and 4 extra points. So since then, both teams with a couple of turnovers. Winter Springs still having trouble controlling that. Back to the rack. That was DeLeo. Give the rebound. Well, it looked like Pooler had it, but she could not get away from Mason, and wound up being a foul. So yes, it will be a Wekiva rebound in possession. A foul.
Foul's called against number 5, Summer Mason, her second personal foul, the team's third. Checking in for her is Anaya Helm.
So a lot of action, but no points put on the board. And once again, your score remains 6-1, 4 minutes into this game on Friday night. Thank you for joining us. Oh, beautiful pass down low. The Hill off balance, gets her own rebound, and makes a deposit.
Alexis Hill on the putback.
First offensive points coming off offensive rebounds in this game. And now a turnover as well. It'll be Wekiva possession. And a timeout.
30-second timeout requested by Winter Springs.
So, Mark, we're 4 minutes, 17 seconds into this game. And I would say that we've had a lot of action, a lot of up and down, but nobody consistent in terms of finding some smoothness and some flow to their game.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I mean, this is getting it done tonight for Wekiva, but they're going to have to clean up a few things in a few places as we start thinking about the district tournament. And I do have the bracket graphic ready now. We'll put that up at the next timeout or between quarters, and we'll get into a little bit about what these teams are thinking about as we get closer and closer to the postseason.
Yeah, and quick summary of those playoffs. With Wekiva holding that 8-1 lead in possession, 3.5. There are 7 classifications in the state of Florida, at least in the Florida High School Athletic Association. Interception, bad pass, Gonzalez just stepping right in front of it. And each of those classes except for Class 1A, and by the way, the classification numbers have nothing to do with the quality of play. It's the student body, the size. Well, another interception, continuing with the inconsistent
Yeah, we're playing recess right now. None of these are designed plays.
Well,
foul is called against Mustangs number 15, Tiana Washington. That's her second personal foul. The team's second of this period, and that will send Anaya DeOlio to the line, shooting 2 for the Bears.
DeLaio with 1 point. And, yeah, Mark, really looks like recess, or even if you go to the gym class where the teachers let you, freestyle at the basketball court. We've seen pretty much the whole range of good and bad in just 5 minutes, as 0 of 2 from the line, but got a break there. That was Woodard. The ball rolled right to her, or bounced right to her. And now out on that left wing, Santa over to Woodard. Wekiva quickly up the court, and at the other end, it's Alexis Hill making the deposit.
Alexis Hill in transition.
So, by the way, Winter Springs with a 5-2 advantage in offensive rebounds, but they have only scored 2 points off the offensive board as we get a foul. 2.5 minutes remaining now. And so getting back to the playoffs,
Jasmine Pooler is called on her first personal foul, the team's third.
Each of the classifications.
It should be noted that Tiana Washington just came off there after picking up her second foul. Now, if you're not familiar, we announced the 5 players coming out, but if you paid careful attention as you were watching the starting lineups during the national anthem, there's only one person we didn't call out. So Wekiva only has 6 on the bench tonight as we get number 3, Jakayla Johnson. Wekiva has 5 starters and 1 sub, so a grand total of 6 players available tonight. And what that means is that they're going to have to be extra careful when it comes to foul trouble, because if you lose somebody to 5 fouls, that means you have no choice. Everybody else is staying in for the duration of the game. If anybody gets hurt, if a second person fouls out, you're going to finish short. It's almost like a power play in hockey. So that is bad news.
An extended power play. And take it from the former hockey player, albeit 30 years ago or 25 years ago. Yes, you use quite a bit of energy. You exert a lot during those power plays, but most power plays are for 2 minutes. So then you get what's called a 5-minute power play. That's a major, and those are the ones that really rip away your energy or your reserve of energy. So, yeah, to that point, this is like not just a regular 2-minute power play. This is like a 5-minute power play. And again, it's not just 5 minutes is more than twice as 2 minutes. So that's why that extra minute. And again, we're a long way from the fourth quarter, but to your point, Mark, we'll see in that fourth quarter, which is like that extra minute when comparing the 2-minute power play to the 5-minute power play in hockey. And nope, Iron's still unkind for Winter Garden. 2 offensive rebounds and unable to put that ball up there. Well, good news for Wekiva, though, is with this 12-1 lead, they do have some room for air and some room for that energy.
30-second timeout requested by Wekiva. And we'll take this opportunity to briefly put up the district standings for you here. So Wekiva right now is sitting at number 4 out of, well, 8 teams will eventually make the postseason. Wekiva is currently ranked 4th. And again, the district champion from each of the districts, 5, 6, 7, and 8, will qualify for the regional tournament. You do not have to be a district champion, though, because among non-champions, the next 5 highest ranked teams in the region at large will get in. So Wekiva right now is well positioned. They would have to fall pretty far from their 15.96 rating, because Horizon right now is on the bubble at 8. Okay, so Wekiva would have to fall pretty far in order to not make the playoffs, but they are on the bubble for being able to host the first round. That 4th place spot is a tricky position to be in, because you'd love to start at home in the postseason.
Yeah, and Mark, also want to point out too, you pointed out district champions get the automatic berth, score the deposit.
Paris Blackwood for 2.
But there are 4 districts. There are 4 regions in each of the classifications and 4 districts in each of the regions. So you have 4 district champions and 4 wild card teams to make up that 8. As you said, stop, pop, drop from Michaela Bell.
That's Paris Blackwood. 2 more.
Excuse me, Paris Blackwood. So, and again, in those black uniforms, it's not always easy to see the number. Bell 23, Blackwood 33, and Winter Garden's getting some shots. They're not the best looking shots, though, in terms of percentage. They're taking a lot of shots off balance and leaning underneath the basket. When all's said and done, though, it's the defense, both teams been inconsistent in terms of good and bad play, but Wekiva with more good and more impact on the good, the 16-1 lead as we head into the second quarter.
That takes us to the end of the first period. 16-1 your score at the end of 8 minutes here on the last home game of season 19. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. The Bears have the opening possession of the second quarter. And I want to apologize. I've been saying this wrong the entire game. This is not the last home game of season 19. It is actually the second to last. Wekiva will play Lake Highland Prep next week at home. That will officially conclude season 19. Of course, I have often said I've probably done, probably 80 or 100 senior nights over the last 19 years as we get three-point basket by Juliana Sana. First field goal of the night for Winter Springs. As I was starting to say, though, I've probably done 80 or 100 senior nights over the course of 19 years. And one thing I've always concluded is that it is a popular myth as we get a jump shot by Jasmine Pooler.
18-4 lead now for Wekiva.
It is a popular myth that senior night is first and foremost to celebrate seniors. Jasmine Pooler again stealing a layup. The reality is senior night is about supporting and celebrating parents and families who have supported those seniors over the course of their childhood and high school careers. And so when you schedule senior night, you're going to look toward the last week or two of the season because it is supposed to be a grand finale. But the specific date you choose, while the very last game is traditional, you really want to maximize availability of the family members who want to come and be there with their senior. And so I have absolutely no problem with coaches who choose dates for senior nights that are maybe not literally the last home game of the season, but somewhere in the last 2 or 3 weeks. At least with basketball, you don't have to worry about being rained out.
Yeah, so in other words, Mark, the parents drive the train when it comes to senior night. And as you said, it's something to do with the seniors. It's one of their last times they're going to walk across in basketball, the court, and football, the field, in their uniforms, but it's more so for the parents. And I can tell you, again, as a former athlete, of course, anybody who's listening is probably a former athlete themselves, at least at the youth and high school levels. And we all know it's the parents who get up at 6 in the morning to take their kids to practice in the summer and pick them up at 6:30 at night during the school year after they've put in a long, hard 8 hours of work themselves. 20-4 is your score, 6:25 before halftime.
And again, a programming note, if you're just joining us, Wekiva is having a themed blackout night for senior night. So they are wearing their black jerseys despite being the home team. So don't let that throw you off.
At the other end, Jacayla Jackson.
Outlet pass to Jacayla Johnson.
Points coming off the turnover. And she actually put that up a lot harder than she needed to. But the iron was kind to her. Now Wekiva in a full court defense. And Winter Spring breaks it.
Yeah, Neil, you and I have talked about this both in the boys and girls competitions all season. But hang on, we're going to get the foul call here. I'll go back to that point. Foul is called against Mustangs. Paris Blackwood is called on the foul. That's her first, the team's first this period. What I started to say, Neil, you and I have both talked about this with both boys and girls basketball all season. When it looks like the game is starting to get kind of out of control from a scoring perspective, and you see the team that's ahead continue to push hard, to run the full court press, to go for the steal, go for the block on every shot, it's tempting to say, oh gosh, is that really sportsmanlike? But the reality is you're not coaching for this game, especially at this point in the season.
Or even that particular moment.
Yeah, you're coaching for the momentum. You are essentially at this point running practice for the next game. Lake Highland Prep, I guarantee you, is going to push the Mustangs to the limit.
Yeah, and I guarantee you that Lake Highland Prep this week is also talking.
Foul is called against number 15. Number 5, Summer Mason. Her third personal foul, the team's first of this period, and that will send Michaela Bell to the free throw line shooting 2.
And Lake Highland Prep is talking about how they're going to play. They're already putting a game plan into putting together a game plan for Wekiva at least a week out, to your point, Mark. Not only are they not going to lighten up, they're going to come with their A game, but they're doing that. They're putting together the game plan now a week in advance.
So yeah, like I said, for that reason, I have never considered it to be in any way unsportsmanlike or bad form for a team to, again, not necessarily to run up the score on purpose, but to continue to compete at their maximum level and play like, you know, it's the fourth quarter and you're down by 3 with under a minute to play. You play with that level of intensity because that's the muscle memory you want to build.
Yeah, and also want to point out too, Mark, not so much tonight as Drain the Rain scored the tray.
For Liana Santana from Anaya Diolio.
Both these teams have very short bench. We mentioned Wekiva with only 6 players, and Winter Springs with only 8 themselves.
Drain the Rain, Jasmine Pooler from Michaela Bell.
But you have situations where the coach puts in the non-starters, the reserves, players who don't get a lot of time, and when they get their opportunity, they want to show coach that they deserve more. So, you know, again, talking about it's not necessarily like intentionally trying to run up the score, but that's another reason you might see a team also continue to score even though they got a large lead.
Alexis Hill was called on her first personal foul, the team's second.
You get those players who don't get a lot of time, and when they do get the time, they want to show coach that they deserve more time.
So Winter Springs showing a little bit of awakening here in the second period. They've got a couple of field goals to their name. Wekiva continuing to smother them in the back or in the front court, though. And there, Michaela Bell has the pass, and that is Bell to Hill for the Mustangs basket.
And the turnovers continue. Winter Springs only had 4 in that first quarter, but the first 2 were on the first 2 possessions. Wekiva turned them into baskets, easy baskets, transition.
Hell ball, possession, Mustangs.
And they had a 4-0 lead about 12 seconds into the game. And now, as I said, only 4 turnovers in that first quarter. So after those first 2 turnovers, Winter Springs did a nice job of holding on to the ball, committing only 2. But now they have 7 already in the second quarter as we're just under halfway through. In the corner, it's Hill from downtown.
Going to get some contact on the rebound.
Push is called against Mustangs, number 15, Tiana Washington, her third personal foul, the team's third of this period.
So also want to mention, to piggyback on what Mark had just said, last game next week.
Checking into the game for the Mustangs is number 3, Kayla Johnson.
Next week, the regular season ends Lake Highland Prep. That's the 28th, which would be next Wednesday. But they do also have a game on Tuesday night. That's an away game against Evans. So 2 more games. Wekiva comes in with that 13-8 record. Drain the rain.
3, Alexis Hill.
Wekiva comes into tonight's game at 11-8, so they have a chance to finish out the season 13-8. And of course, that game against Lake Highland Prep, if they can get a victory, that would certainly help their FHSA power rankings. 3:10 remaining, 32-7 lead for Wekiva.
Paris Blackwood is called on her second personal foul. It's the team's 4th this period. At the line shooting, and I help.
Excuse me, Wekiva's actually 13-8. So they could finish the season with 15 victories, 15-8. And as Mark said, they are come in 4th in those power rankings. And I can just tell you, as someone who's covered high school athletics in Florida for, wow, close to 40 years. I've been doing it on a full-time basis for about 27, 28 years now. But if you can get 15, 16 victories, that's pretty much the threshold to at least give you be in the conversation to get into the playoffs. As Mark said, though, Wekiva is securely in the 4th position. It's a matter of whether they're going to play at home or not as we drop under 3 minutes. 32-9 lead after the pair of free throws.
Again, you don't want to count your chickens before they've hatched, and I don't want to make prognostications that I can't guarantee. But at this point, something pretty spectacular would have to happen as we get a offensive team control foul is called against number 12, Juliana Woodard. That's her first, the team's 2nd.
But I was going to say, too, Mark, if you can pull out victories in those last 2 games, and especially Lake Highland Prep. Lake Highland Prep, if you're not familiar with women's high school basketball, as we get the timeout.
Requested by Wekiva.
As we get the timeout, Lake Highland Prep always not just a contender to get into the playoffs in the middle classes. Again, there's 7 classifications, but they are always a contender, always expected to make long runs into the playoffs. They've won multiple state championships. And so while we got this break, also we talked about the power rankings, which again, that's how your 4 wild card berths are determined. And then the seedings are also determined by the power rankings. And the power rankings are a formula that uses the record of the team and then the opponent's record and then the opponent's record. So if you can beat a team like Lake Highland Prep, again, always a perennial state championship, which means they have a very high power ranking, that's going to translate to you gaining a lot of points in your power ranking if you can defeat them.
Yeah, Neil, it's largely a kind of a clone of the Max Preps power ranking system. It's not quite exactly the same. The FHSAA does have their homebrew formula of it, but to your point, it's your own record counts the most, your opponent's records count a little bit less, your opponent's records count a little bit, and that's really the secret sauce to how the teams are stacked up against each other, which is why if you look at, we'll put it up again at halftime, but if you look at that graphic that has the power rankings, you got a team on there that is 18-1. So Bloomingdale, as we get
that's Pooler splash.
Jasmine Pooler. Bloomingdale has an 18-1 record, but their strength of schedule is only 2.6.
Yeah, Mark, and I also want to go back. Wekiva was a surprise Final Four participant. Was it 3 years ago?
Player control foul is called against number 3, Jakayla Johnson. That's her first personal foul, the team's 5th. No bonus shots on offensive fouls, but it does turn the ball over to the Bears.
And I believe it was in 2023 when Wekiva made what by most people would be considered a surprise run to the Final Four. At the other end, Pooler makes the deposit.
Jasmine Pooler steals 2 for the Mustangs.
And the reason I bring that up is because one of the other teams that made it to the Final Four that year was Bloomingdale. I remember that very correctly and very vividly. And it was the same scenario. They had something like a 24-1 or 23-2 record. And they breezed through their region. Bloomingdale out in the Tampa area. I believe that's the Region 3. But they won their 3 games in double digits.
But the problem is then you go play against one of the other regions.
Yeah, and that year I believe it was St. Thomas Aquinas who beat them in the Final Four. St. Thomas Aquinas, just like Lake Highland Prep, a team that's always expected to make a run to the Final Four. If they don't get there, it's a disappointing season. They're down in the Fort Lauderdale area.
Now, the other thing I'll say about Bloomingdale is there is a certain amount of forgiveness for them having such a low strength of schedule. It's not necessarily that they're trying to just, walk on cake the whole year.
Yeah,
District 8 is just a really weak district. There are no other teams from District 8 anywhere in the top 8.
.107 remaining, and that was Hill hitting the deck. See who the foul is on as the play continues to move up and down the court quickly.
Foul's called against number 0. Line shooting 2 will be Anaya Hill.
37-9 lead for Wekiva. And as you just heard Mark say, that's 5 fouls on Wekiva. So Winter Springs will be in the bonus.
6, but yeah, 5
Winter
is all
Springs
that
will
matters.
be in the bonus the rest of the way. So also want to point out, stick around for at halftime. We got a special performance tonight.
That's right. We'll have our dance team. Synergy is here. Now, I do want to apologize in advance because of copyright issues. I will have no choice but to mute your audio during that performance. So those who are in the arena here will get treated to the full experience. Those of you watching at home will get the visual experience.
Score the tray for Johnson.
Jacayla Johnson.
And Mark, and again, maybe some of this is because of the turnovers now. 11 turnovers for Winter Springs after only having 4 in that first quarter. That's 11 in the second quarter. But Wekiva normally does not shoot this well from beyond the arc, and they suddenly found the range and that momentum. Again, when you get those turnovers, that's opportunity to get into transition. And basketball, very much a rhythm game, off the rim, no dice for Sana, and Wekiva off and running again with 30 seconds remaining, trying to get that lead to 30 plus at halftime. So not only rhythmic in terms of building a lead in the scoreboard and extending that lead, but also the actual flow of a game, moving up and down the court.
Foul is called against Bears, number 1, Gianna Sana on the trip. That's her first, the team's third.
So it's a non-shooting foul. Bell will inbound the ball. Again, it's senior night. Thank you for joining us. And certainly this has been a senior-laden game. Bell, one of those seniors on this team. Of course, Bell has been on the varsity team for 4 years straight now. So for you longtime Wekiva fans, you know, of course, Tommy Butts was the coup de grace coach, taking the team to 7 Final Fours in 9 years, a couple of state championships as well, and he left. Currently over at Central Florida Christian Academy, 15.8 seconds remaining. And Jerry Middleton took over. The first year was very difficult, only 2 wins. But since then, 3 straight winning seasons. Always a team that, as we mentioned, capability of winning 14, 15 games in the mid-teens. Splash! And Michaela Bell.
3 for Alexis Hill.
Michaela Bell, the 4-year starter now, probably most responsible for that.
Score the half-court basket.
So Wekiva scored the first 4 points, got a couple of turnovers, and it was close for a while, but since then it's been all Wekiva, shooting over 60%, taking advantage of 20-plus turnovers at halftime. A team that's 13-8, and every victory is needed to position themselves for the playoffs.
That half-court basket hit by Juliana Sana, and that will make it a 43-14 game as we go into the locker rooms. Don't go anywhere. We've got a halftime performance coming right up from Synergy Dance Company. So once again, I'll apologize to those of you watching the broadcast from home that we do have to close the audio off so we don't get a copyright violation here, but we will definitely treat you to this halftime performance. Once again, our thanks to Synergy Dance Company for bringing us some halftime entertainment. Thank you, ladies. And while we are paused here for halftime, we will once again take a look at the playoff picture. I know that those of you here in the arena can't see the screen probably well enough to make this out. Those of you watching online at home can get a sense of where we are. But this is the second to last week of the regular season. So next week, Wekiva has one game on the road and one game at home. So again, next week, Wekiva will play at Evans on the 27th Tuesday, and then we'll be home versus Lake Highland week. And then it's the all-important regional tournament, the playoffs. So FHSA made some changes to the way this works a couple of years ago. The way it works now, there are 7 classifications plus rural in the state of Florida. Each of those 7 classifications, which are determined by enrollment, those are subdivided into 4 regions. Each of the 4 regions are subdivided into 4 districts. So Wekiva sits in District 5, which is a part of Region 2. Right now, Wekiva is ranked 4th in Region 2 with a power rating of 15.965. Teams that are ahead of us would include Edgewater, our district rival, Bayside from District 6, and Bloomingdale over on Tampa's side of the state as the number 1 seed. Below us is Vieira, Lakeland, Heritage, and Horizon. So if the season were to end today and the district tournament didn't happen and we just went into the playoffs with the way things are right now, Wekiva would host Vieira for round 1. That would be 4 versus 5. So at this point, obviously Wekiva would like to have a district championship under their belt because you always want to go into the regionals with your district champion. However, regardless of what happens in the district tournament, with a number 4 seed, Wekiva is very, very well positioned. If they don't get in with a district championship, they would almost certainly get in with a wild card. Where they are on the bubble, though, is the top 4 teams get to host their first round of the playoffs. The bottom 4 teams have to go on the road. And right now, Wekiva is right on the edge of being on the top 4 teams. So this game, the games that Wekiva will play next week, and the district tournament itself, all critical to make sure Wekiva stays in the top 4 and has a relatively more advantageous path through the regional tournament. You can get the updated ratings on FHSAA.com, and they update every Tuesday. So if you want to check in for updated ratings, you'll find them on Tuesday. For those of you watching online, we are going to take a break here at Mustang Arena. We'll be back in about 4 minutes to continue with our call of senior night here from Mustang Arena. Up 43-14 at half. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. We are ready to start the third quarter, and the Mustangs with a comfortable lead going into the second half coming out of the locker rooms. The Bears have the opening possession of the third period. 43-14 the score coming out of intermission.
And we begin the second half with Winter Springs possession. 43-14, as Mark said.
Full timeout requested by Winter Springs. All right, well, we'll take it with him. I know we just took a break. We'll take another quick one. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back once again to Mustang Arena. About 20 seconds gone in the third period. And Winter Springs puts the ball back in play.
So take a quick look at the stats, and they, for the most part, what you would expect when a team has a 29-point lead. We're going to have a couple free throws here. DeLeo.
Foul is called against Mustangs, number 24, Alexis Hill. That's her second personal foul, the team's first of this period. At the line, shooting two for the Bears, number 11, Anaya DeOlio. And again, a programming note in case you didn't join us for the first half and hear this. The colors are backwards today. That is because it is a themed senior night. It's a blackout. Wekiva encouraged all their fans to wear black. So if you notice that seems to be disproportionately represented in the stands, that's why. And then Wekiva themselves made arrangements with Winter Springs to wear black. So even though it is customary for the home team to wear white, and the colors at the bottom of your screen reflect that because that's how our software is programmed, Wekiva is in fact in the black jerseys tonight.
Those statistics, Wekiva shooting around 50%. Actually just a little bit below it. Now remember, these aren't the exact stats. Mark and I, we have a skeleton crew here. We do get some students to help us with the cameras, but we don't have statisticians, so there might be a few more shots taken in this.
Second chance basket for the Bears by Summer Mason.
But my stats, I had Wekiva going 18 of 47, 18 of 37 from the field. That's 13 of 27, just below 50% inside the arc at two-point range, and then 5 of 10, which is obviously 50%. And that was buoyed by 18 turnovers. Now, as I mentioned in that first half, the first two possessions ended with turnovers. Winter Springs turnover. Wekiva came down quickly, transition, got some easy baskets. No hands in the face at the other end. And they took a 4-0 lead. They've never trailed in this game. And it did wind up being 16-1 at the end of the first quarter, but Winter Springs only turned the ball over 2 more times after that first 2 possessions. So it was more because Wekiva was shooting well. They were getting good looks at the basket, easy baskets underneath like that, right underneath, to take that 16-1 lead. However,
foul is called against number 20, Laura Ray. Her first personal foul, the team's first, and Tiana Washington will shoot 2.
However, in the second quarter, there were 12 turnovers by Winter Springs, and that allowed that 15-point lead to grow to 29. And looking at Winter Springs now, the lead back up to 29 again. Looking at Winter Springs, they did not make a field goal from 2-point range. 13 of their points, 9 of which came from three-point field goals. And then they were 4 of 8 from the free throw, or 5 of 8 from the free throw line. Excuse me, there was 14 points at halftime. So they made 3 three-point field goals and went 5 of 8 from the free throw line. At the other end, now we're up to 31.
Jasmine Pooler in transition.
And so again, Winter Springs was able to keep this score. If they could not score, they were at least able to keep Wekiva's score somewhat on the lower side, even though it was a 15-point deficit in the first quarter. But since then, it's been all Wekiva. They've pretty much turned those turnovers into easy baskets, and we're now at a 31-point lead, 5.5 before the end of the third quarter. This does not drop, clanks off the heel, skying high was Tiana Washington. Great job of rebounding.
Traveling after the rebound, Bears ball.
But in order to get the rebounds, you just heard Mark say when she landed, she was not able to keep her balance, took a couple of hops backwards.
Juliana Sana back into the game for the Bears. Rims out for Sana. Try again, same spot. This one's wide left. And it's 3 against 1. Shaquilla Johnson had 3 girls on her and still managed to make it bounce off of them going out of bounds. So she didn't come up with the rebound directly, but she was very much responsible for the team defensive rebound there.
So Wekiva will take possession again. And there's an offensive foul. See that contact by Washington.
Player control foul is called against number 15, Tiana Washington. That's her 4th personal foul, the team's 2nd. Checking into the game for her is number 23, Michaela Bell. So Washington comes off with 4 fouls. That's not surprising. And I said this at the beginning of the game, Neil. Wekiva has to watch their fouls because they do not have a bench of any reasonable size tonight. They've only got one available sub.
Yeah, neither of these teams with a very big bench.
Out of bounds, Mustangs ball.
Winter Springs has 8, which in itself you would think not a very large bench, not very much depth, but compared to Wekiva, that's quite a luxury.
Yeah, Wekiva with just 1, and Winter Springs has 3 on the bench.
Yeah, there's more coaches on the Wekiva bench than players.
That's a long 2-point jump shot for Alexis Hill. So Hill had her. At this point, Wekiva has the necessary wiggle room here that if they did get stuck having to turn the gas down a little bit because they've got players that can't come out of the game and are going to get tired, it's not like it's going to necessarily change the outcome of the game here, but still. Kayla Bell.
At the other end, goes off the rim, unable to get that center shot that was steadily increasing in the first quarter. It was 16-1, but since then, Wekiva's pretty much on a very steady clip, continue to increase that lead, and this should bring the first quarter or the third quarter to an end. It's going to be a non-shooting foul. It's going to say the free throws, but there are none. So 10 seconds remaining. Winter Springs back to work. DeLeo. 3 seconds. Got to get the shot off. They do. And actually got a halfway decent look there, better look than he thought he would from Norbutis. But again, Wekiva continues to extend that lead, 53-16 at the end of the third quarter. This is the Wekiva Mustangs Athletic Network.
Well, welcome back to Mustang Arena. We're back to live action here for the fourth quarter.
Wekiva looking to up that lead. That's Bell. Too much heat. Hill bringing down the rebound. One-on-one in that corner. Wekiva with the 53-16 lead and a scoop shot making the deposit. Johnson.
Jacayla Johnson.
So we are in a running clock. That means if one team has a lead of 35 points or more in the third quarter, the clock continues to run. It does not stop except for injuries or called timeouts. Loose ball tracked down by Mason.
Fouls called against Mustangs, number 24, Alexis Hill. That's her third personal foul, team's first of this period.
Winter Springs maintains possession.
Delay of game warning called on Pooler.
So as you heard Mark say, the stoppage in play was for the delay of game. Wekiva continues to hound the Winter Springs on defense. Back the other way we go. And back to action we go, 5.5 minutes remaining. Foul committed by number 15, Tiana Washington. That is her fifth, and she will retire for the game. So Tiana Washington now fouled out of the game, 4:41 remaining. Wekiva stays in that man-to-man defense.
So, Neil, that was just what I said was going to happen. Wekiva now has exactly 5 people available as Michaela Bell. Again, not that it's going to be outcome determinative.
Not in this game.
But, yeah.
Not tonight.
You can't, like the 5 girls that are on the court right now, they're going to be on the court for the rest of the game. Period. And for what it's worth, Alexis Hill has 3.
So we got 3 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. Back the other way with Bell, and she loses it. Break for Winter Springs.
You could tell, though, that the first thought that went through her head is, don't get a charge.
Stop, pop, and drop for Juliana Woodard.
And now Wekiva walking the ball up. That's Pooler. So now with that 30-plus lead, actually 40 points, they're much more deliberate in terms of the shooting. And a foul. This will take a good chunk of the remaining 2 minutes, 45 seconds off the clock.
Number 4, Yelimar Gonzalez is called for first personal foul, the team's first of this period. Mustangs ball at the opposing baseline.
Down low, the turnaround, no deposit. That was Hill. Too much heat, rolled off the rim, over the rim. 2:20 remaining. Stepping in front of it, looked like a defensive back. Pooler will go. She got whacked.
Foul's called against number 30, Anaya Hell. That's her first person. Send Jasmine Pooler to the line, shooting 2.
One of 2.
Offensive rebound, Windex work for Blackwood, one of the seniors being celebrated tonight. So Wekiva, a dominant victory. They'll go to 14-8 on the season. Again, if you joined us later, just a refresher.
Traveling, Mustangs ball.
Wekiva in that number 4 seed in the region. 8 teams make the playoffs in each region. Unlikely they have to take some drastic number of losses and victories for the other teams for Wekiva not to make the playoffs, but you certainly want that home court advantage, and Wekiva will certainly strengthen its position with this victory.
Yeah,
every victory important. When you get down, they'll have 2 more games left against Evans and then Lake Highland Prep. And so Wekiva, the story of this game, they got 2 turnovers on the first 2 possessions, scored buckets, took the 4-0 lead. Winter Springs did do a good job in that first quarter after those first 2 possessions, holding on to the ball, only 2 turnovers. But since then, they've had 25-plus turnovers, and Wekiva has turned them into easy baskets, shooting over 50%, maybe even 55% from the field. Once again, Wekiva go to 14-8, 2 more opportunities to further position themselves for the playoffs against Evans and Lake Howe. Winter Springs drops to 11-9. And Mark? take us to the finish line.
Takes us to the end of the ball game. 59-18 is the final score here on senior night from Mustang Arena. I want to thank everyone for coming out to support your Mustang and Bears athletes tonight. In particular, congratulations to our 4 seniors and our 3 senior managers. And we will wish them nothing but success in all of their future endeavors. Well, I misspoke earlier. Even though this is senior night, this is not the last home game of the season. We actually have one more of those. Wekiva will travel to Evans next Tuesday. Meanwhile, the boys will be home for their senior night against Jones. The girls will have their last home game of the year against Lake Highland Prep a week from, next Wednesday. So that's next Wednesday. We will wrap up season 19 hosting Lake Highland Prep. We hope that you will join us for that. Until then, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube at Wekiva Sports, and bookmark WekivaMustangs.com for all of your scores, schedules, and more. For those of you in the arena, please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Those of you watching online, we hope you'll subscribe before you go. We'll see you next week. Until then, good night from Mustang Arena.